Welcome back to Mind Clash, everyone. We're diving into a story today that sounds like it could be ripped from the headlines. You know, one of those things you hope stays fiction, but
Yeah. Sometimes reality's got a way of one-upping us, right?
yeah, this one's got us wondering about a few things. We're talking about the bird flu, avian influenza, specifically what's happening over in Washington state.
Right. So, not just your average bird flu situation here, and that's what makes it so fascinating from a scientific standpoint, anyway.
We've got reports from both the CDC and the Washington State Department of Health to dig into, and, well, things are a little concerning, to say the least.
Definitely a story that's developing, yeah.
So let's jump right in. 4 farm workers in Franklin County, Washington, tested positive for avian influenza. Presumptively positive, the reports say,
Yeah.
which I guess means we're waiting on those superficial results.
Exactly, yeah. So preliminary testing's pointing that way, but, further confirmation's needed. But it's definitely enough to raise eyebrows.
For sure. And this isn't just a random occurrence. These workers were exposed while they were culling birds at a commercial egg farm.
Yeah, and to give some context here, this wasn't like, casual contact with a bird at the park or something. Culling is, well, it's the process of removing birds that are infected or suspected of being infected to prevent further spread.
Right, so you're talking about being right in the thick of it, prolonged contact, lots of potential for exposure. And it gets even more intense because this particular farm, they were already dealing with an avian influenza outbreak.
Exactly. So a high-risk environment to begin with, unfortunately. And this actually marks the first potential case of human-to-human transmission, right?
No, not quite. This is the first potential human transmission of the H5N1 virus in Washington state, but from birds to humans, not human to human.
Oh, right, of course. My mistake.
No worries, it's easy to get those terms mixed up. Okay, so good news, bad news time. The good news is these 4 workers, they only experienced mild symptoms.
Yeah, and thankfully they were treated with antiviral medication, which, that's going to help a lot.
Definitely a relief. But it does get you thinking, are there long-term effects we should be worried about? And what about this virus mutating? It's a scary thought, honestly.
You're hitting on the big questions there, the ones that are keeping scientists up at night, for sure. And the thing is, Washington isn't an isolated case here. This isn't just a local thing. We've seen cases pop up in dairy cattle, too. Actually, did you know this is now the 6th state in the U.S. to report human cases of this bird flu?
Dairy cattle. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Wow, 6 state. That's a lot more widespread than I realized. Why the concern about cattle, though?
Well, think about it. The virus jumps to another species. Every time that happens, it's like rolling the dice. The virus is replicating, it's mutating. It could become more transmissible, more dangerous. Who knows?
Oh, so it has more chances to, like, figure out how to infect mammals better.
Yeah, potentially. That's the worry. And, we've got flu season in full swing for us humans, too. Imagine someone gets a double whammy, both this avian flu and the seasonal flu.
Oh, no, that sounds awful. And could make things even worse, right?
Right. They could mix, swap genetic material. You could end up with, well, something totally new.
So what are we doing about this? Anything.
Well, the CDC is on the case. They're sending a team over to Washington to assess the situation with those farm workers.
Good, good. What about the cattle?
I haven't seen specifics about that yet, but there are definitely things that can be done. What I find interesting is that Washington and California are looking at offering seasonal flu vaccines to farm workers.
Oh, that's smart. Get ahead of it.
Yeah, proactive, right. If they can prevent farm workers from getting the seasonal flu, it reduces the risk of that mixing scenario we're worried about.
Makes a lot of sense. So what's the takeaway for our listeners today? I mean, this sounds kind of far removed from most people's day-to-day lives.
Right, but it highlights how interconnected human and animal health really are. What affects one can easily spill over to the other. This isn't just about birds, it's about us too.
Makes you think, what else is out there? What other connections haven't we made yet? It's definitely something to keep in mind. And if you found this deep dive intriguing, and let's be honest, how could you not? Make sure to hit that subscribe button.
We'll keep bringing you these fascinating stories every time.
Join us next time for more on Mind Clash.